Some fates weave through dark intentions. Ara, 22 years old, stood in the bustling kitchens of Eldara, shadows wrapping around her like a shroud. The voices of her fellow servants melded into a cacophony of hurried commands and laughter, a stark contrast to the oppressive weight settling over her heart. The air, thick with the scent of rich spices and dread, wrapped around her, clinging to her skin. Tonight was the night of the king's lavish feast, and the tension pulsated in the very stones of the castle. A flicker of fire ignited in her emerald green eyes. She was small, lean, hands rough from endless toil, yet her spirit remained unyielding even amidst servitude. But freedom felt like a distant dream, tainted by the memories of all she had lost. Memories of family gatherings filled with warmth evaporated into shadows. Her parents had been executed for their rebellion against the king's cruel grip, leaving her haunted by the echo of their laughter, crushed by the laws they could not escape. Friends she'd watched grow strong now lay broken, their hopes snuffed out by the iron fist of the Lycan race ruling Eldara. Tonight, the air crackled with unease. As she chopped vegetables, her mind drifted, desperately steering clear of the present. Visions flashed in her thoughts. Chaos, flames licking at the very foundations of the castle, betrayal lying in wait like a snake. She had tried to share her fears, her visions of oncoming doom, yet each attempt had met only scorn and laughter from the royal guards. They exchanged glances, dismissive, treating her like a ghost. A servant's voice rose above the clamor. "Ara, focus!" The command snapped her attention back to the present. Fear clawed at her heart. She was still but a servant, and would they throw her to the wolves if she insisted on speaking to the king? Would tonight be the night that she dared risk her life to save others? The turmoil inside her swelled. A tempest of fear, anger, and longing surged like a tide against the walls she'd built around her heart. Despite it all, she felt the threads of fate weaving together, closing in as shadows began to thicken. Just then, he appeared. King Malachi, tall, cloaked in shadows and grandeur, a commanding presence at the center of this great feast. The ruler's piercing gaze swept across the room, landing briefly on Ara. For a heartbeat, power crackled between them. He felt it too, the unrest beneath the kingdom's surface, the whispers of betrayal swirling in the court like toxic smoke. Malachi, bound to his throne by blood and magic, wore the burden of centuries upon his shoulders. 4 centuries of solitude twisted his heart, giving life to a curse that shadowed every aspect of his reign. Would he understand the warnings Ara carried in her heart? Time was slipping away like sand through his fingers, every second echoing the dread of the unknown. A flicker of resolve ignited within Ara as she thought of her family, of the futility of silencing her voice. Maybe she could make him listen, perhaps even save lives. As that thought formed, noise burst around her again, fragments of laughter that felt like knives against her skin. Her heart raced. Would they see her? Would they listen? Then, a loud crash echoed through the room. A tray of crystal goblets had tumbled from a startled servant's grip, the sound sharp against the stone floor. All eyes turned to her, the laughter fading into a weighty silence, heavy and loaded with suspicion. She could feel the laughter shifting, the eyes narrowing. Would this be her moment, or would it seal her fate? She swallowed hard, steel closing around her resolve. She would not cower. She had to warn him. Would the king heed the words of a mere servant? Or would darkness engulf them all, unchallenged and victorious? How could she find the courage needed? Ara couldn't wait too long to find out. Ara stood there, heart pounding, caught in the thick tension hanging over the room. All eyes were on her, doubtful, judgmental. Yet somewhere among them, she could sense the flicker of curiosity. They might dismiss her, a servant with nothing but visions and dreams of freedom flitting through her mind, but she clung to the hope that there was more to her than met the eye. She had been a servant for as long as she could remember. The day her parents were snatched away by the king's guards for daring to resist the iron grip of Eldara marked the beginning of her life in chains. They had whispered of courage, told stories of rebellion, encouraged her to dream of a world beyond the castle walls. But dreams were fragile things, easily crushed beneath the weight of oppression. She had watched childhood friends grow strong, only to feel the coldness of iron shackles when they dared challenge the king's authority. Ara couldn't afford to make the same mistake. That fierce longing for freedom twisted painfully inside her, and many nights, when the moonlight spilled through her tiny window, she wept quietly for all that was lost. In stark contrast, King Malachi had been born into power, shrouded in dark magic like a wraith, or so the whispers in the court said. His father, King Xeroch, had ruled with absolute authority, and when Malachi ascended the throne, he'd inherited not just the crown, but also the burden of blood magic that coursed through his veins. It was both a gift and a curse. The lingering loneliness tethered to his regal status spun like a web, entangling him in a life of solitude. In this kingdom, power was nourished by fear, and Malachi knew too well the cost of loyalty. The shadow of the one he had loved and lost haunted him like a ghost whispering in the dark. No one could understand the depth of his anguish, the severed bond that left a jagged wound in his heart. He longed for connection, yet the more he reached out, the more he found himself drowning in despair. Now, he paced the periphery of the banquet hall, at once majestic and alarming. His golden cloak billowed behind him like a storm cloud, reflecting the anxiety brimming within the court. Whispers of rebellion echoed in his mind as he scanned the crowd. Danger lurked behind every smile, every clasped hand. His instincts screamed a warning. What if one day that short-lived joy turned into betrayal? Despite the festivities, Malachi felt trapped in a gilded cage. He observed the servants scurrying about, their faces a mask of fear. There was power in his throne, but he was suffocating, an unyielding pressure bound by duty. The thought of a rebellion carving its way through his kingdom made his heart race. The magic swirling around him pulsated with uncertainty, echoing the fears that crept along his spine. And it was then, slipping through his thoughts, he caught a glimpse of Ara, her presence barely penetrating the bright, flittering atmosphere. At first glance, she was just another face among the crowd, but there was something peculiar about her, a uniqueness that pulled at him, igniting a curiosity he couldn't quite suppress. The emerald of her eyes flickered with something deeper, something more potent. As he turned his gaze away, the atmosphere shifted. A wave of energy surged through the hall, raw and electric. Ara, sensing her chance, stepped forward, her heart racing as if it could resonate with the pulse of the kingdom itself. "Your Majesty!" The words tumbled from her lips, no longer desperate whispers. She could no longer hide in the shadows or linger in fear. He had to hear her. The room went silent, every head turning toward her, surprise and curiosity catching fire. She felt exposed, but a flicker of defiance propelled her forward. "There's danger tonight. A vision. I can see chaos ahead. The feast." Malachi's cold gaze locked onto her. Time slowed, the world's noise fading as they stood there. He felt a stirring, something deep within, a connection pulling at him like gravity. Her boldness threatened to unravel the tightly wound threads of his carefully constructed facade. "What do you mean?" he asked, voice low, fierce, yet edged with intrigue. A murmur rustled through the crowd, and she saw doubt flicker in their eyes, doubt that echoed her own, but she refused to waver. Ara took a step closer, driven by determination. "The palace, fire, betrayal. It's coming. I can feel it." "Please, you must trust me." Trust. That word lingered between them, fragile, yet alive with the weight of unspoken promises. Would he listen? Would he heed the voice of a mere servant? Malachi hesitated, his thoughts racing. Suddenly, the tension cracked like a taut string, and the air thickened with an impending storm. Shadows flickered on the walls, the laughter dying in sync with the rising pulse of chaos waiting just beyond the banquet hall doors. Would she become the key to unlocking his heart, or would her warning sink in the abyss of suspicion? Ara took a deep breath, grounding herself. This was the moment. Could she convince him that danger approached, or would she remain just another voice drowned out by the thrum of power? Would darkness overwhelm their fates before they even had a chance? The silence stretched taut, humming with unspoken thoughts. As Malachi's gaze bore into Ara, she felt the weight of the entire court pressing down on her, their disbelief like chains binding her in place. But even as uncertainty flickered in their eyes, she stood tall, heart racing with urgency. "Your Majesty," she said again, voice steadying despite the chaos swirling within her. "People will be hurt. Your people. We have to act. We must warn everyone." Malachi's brow furrowed, the echoes of his own past mingling with her words. He had felt the burn of betrayal before, the sting of love lost to treachery. It was a pain he had locked away deep inside, but the flicker in Ara's eyes ignited another fire. "Warning them will only cause panic," he replied, his voice powerful yet cautious. He could sense the danger in her urgency, but something about her, something primal, called to him, awakening instincts long buried beneath centuries of solitude. "Better panic than death," Ara shot back, her resolve hardening. Inside her, the laughter of her friends long gone, and the vision of her parents' faces fueled her conviction. The king stepped forward, closing the distance between them, and she felt a pull she couldn't explain. His presence was overwhelming, a wild tempest teetering on the edge of control. "You speak of a dire warning, yet here you stand, a mere servant. Why should I place faith in words that could very well lead to my downfall?" That question hung heavy between them, and her heart pounded in response. "Because I've seen it. The flames devouring this palace. The betrayal among those who should protect you. My visions are real." She didn't care for the risk of revealing too much. Time was fading, and patience had worn thin. Just as she finished speaking, the sound of shattering glass echoed from beyond the doors, reverberating through the hall like a tidal wave crashing against the shore. Malachi's eyes darted toward the noise, catching the flicker of uncertainty in the court's reactions. "Stay here," he commanded, turning on his heel and striding toward the door. But she couldn't remain hidden in the shadows any longer. "No, wait! We have to leave now!" Ara felt the adrenaline surge as she moved to follow him, urgency eclipsing her fear. He glanced back, eyes aflame with intensity. "Do not presume to dictate my actions, servant!" But she didn't flinch. "Your Majesty, at stake is not just your authority but lives. If you leave now..." His gaze pierced her. "What do you know of stakes, girl?" "I know enough about death." The words spilled from her lips like a plea wrapped in truth. "I felt the loss of both my parents, and now it's here. Your kingdom on the brink of destruction." For the first time, Malachi hesitated. The chaos, the fragmented shouts filtering into the hall from outside, pressed against his senses as a reality he couldn't ignore. Ara's words made him feel as if someone had gripped his heart, squeezing tightly. Stripped bare, the ghost of heaviest loss haunted his memory. It took a moment, but then Malachi saw her, as more than just a servant. The pull between them intensified, weaving an undeniable bond that began to form amidst the uncertainty. "Lead the way, Ara," he finally commanded, his voice low and laced with urgency. "Show me what you see." Relief flooded through her, bolstering her resolve. "Follow me. We need to get everyone to safety. Now." They rushed through the halls of Castle Eldara, urgency propelling them forward. The grandeur that surrounded them became a blur in her vision. Ara reached the main courtyard, her heart hammering in time with their hurried steps. She could hear the chaos escalating now. Faint screams echoed in the distance, the flicker of torches casting erratic shadows across the stone walls. Malachi moved with a grace that belied his kingly stature. The weight of his magic flared around him, snapping like a flickering flame on the cusp of brilliance. As they approached the courtyard, a sudden burst of energy rippled through the air. A group of soldiers emerged from the shadows, brandishing weapons, eyes alight with chaos and fury. "What's happening?" one of them shouted as they spotted Malachi. "Your Majesty, it's a trap. They're infiltrating the castle." "No!" Ara called out, her voice slicing through the tension. "We need to rally together. The enemy is among us. We cannot let fear rule us." "Silence!" a guard barked back, eyes darting around in panic. "The king is in danger!" Malachi stepped forward, eyes blazing like wildfire. "I need to know where the threat lies. Soldiers, gather!" He turned to Ara. "What can you see? We need information." She looked around the courtyard, gathering herself as panic mingled with purpose, piecing together her visions. "I saw flames. A fire igniting along the east wall. That's where they'll strike first." The king's expression hardened. the weight of leadership pressing down upon him. Secure that area. The rest of you form a defensive line. Ara clenched her fists, feeling the flicker of fate guiding them. They were not just defending a castle now, but forging a new alliance amid the rising chaos. As the soldiers rushed to comply, she turned to Malachi, a sense of determination surging within her. "You can do this," she whispered, meeting his gaze, steady and unwavering. He nodded, a smile breaking through the storm that had clouded his face. Together, then. And would they have the strength to face the encroaching darkness threatening to consume them? Could they change the course of fate together, or would it unravel in flames before their eyes? The courtyard erupted into frenetic chaos. The air thickened with tension, crackling energy swirling like storm clouds overhead. Malachi could feel the weight of expectations collapsing onto his shoulders. This was his kingdom, his responsibility. He had sworn to protect those under his charge, sworn to be a shield against the encroaching darkness outside. "Fall back to your positions," Malachi commanded, his voice thundering over the commotion. Soldiers scrambled, their faces pale with fear, yet the flicker of resolve sparked in their eyes as they quickly rallied behind him. Ara stood near the king, adrenaline coursing through her veins, urgency fueling each heartbeat. "Let them understand we're not just defending ourselves, but fighting for our future. We'll need each other," Malachi replied, meeting her gaze, raw determination reflected in his eyes. Together, they stood on the brink of something greater than individual roles, something that held the potential to change their fate. As the guards re-established their posts, the echoing clang of metal against metal punctuated the din. Ara's heart raced, instinct driving her forward. "Look!" she shouted, pointing toward the east wall where shadows flickered like flames just beyond the torchlight. "That's where the attack will come. We need to prepare quickly." Soldiers nodded, responding to her urgency. Their fear metamorphosed into focus as they repositioned themselves, understanding sinking in. Together, the king and the woman who had once been just a servant now forged a single front. The memories of loss, pain, and despair were overshadowed by the forging of new bonds in the heat of battle. Amidst the preparations, a figure materialized from the shadows. A tall, hooded man, face obscured, but an aura of darkness lingered around him like a poisonous mist. The crowd hushed, fear pinning them in place like a hunter flushing out a wounded beast. "King Malachi!" the figure called, his voice smooth, teasing. "Do you truly believe you can protect what is already lost?" Malachi's jaw clenched. "Who dares invade my castle?" The figure laughed, a low, dangerous sound. "You've lost your people's trust, their loyalty. They crave change, Malachi. You cannot hide from the truth." "Enough!" Ara stepped forward, rage igniting within her. "You're a coward hiding in shadows. The light reveals your deceit." The figure shifted, revealing a glimmer of silver glinting from his cloak, and she caught her breath. The mark of a renegade, a symbol proclaiming betrayal. He was one of them, a brother to those who had oppressed the kingdom for too long. The tension escalated. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation. Malachi's power stirred, igniting the air around them. "You threaten my kingdom with lies. We stand together united. We will no longer be silenced." His voice echoed throughout the courtyard, gathering the soldiers' respect, sparking their courage. Ara felt shifts in the crowd as whispers filled the air, uncertainties about their past, doubts about the future, but her heart surged with conviction. "You all know the truth. You watched as my family was taken away, as countless others were sacrificed for greed and power. We will not continue in chains." With her words, a flicker of hope ignited within the ranks of the soldiers. They locked eyes, a silent understanding passing between them, a promise to fight for each other, for a kingdom reborn. "Tonight, we write a new chapter," Malachi roared. "Let them come. We face the darkness as one." The enemy, seeing the defiance bloom before him, unleashed a horde, a rush of dark figures moving like shadows in the night, armed and relentless. Flames danced in the distance. Shadows of desperation and rage congealed into a single force. "Hold the line!" Malachi shouted, rallying his soldiers. They formed ranks, swords raised, shields locked, a fortress of determination against the oncoming tide. Ara sensed the weight of the moment. Lives depended on their courage. Now! Malachi commanded as the enemy surged forward. The clash of steel sang the song of battle, chaos exploding around them. Ara carved into the fray with fierce precision, her instincts driving her. She moved as if guided by an unseen force, dancing through shadows, cutting through fear. Swords clashed, sparks flew, and fierce growls filled the air like a primal hymn. She was no mere servant now. She felt alive, coursing with the power of her ancestors. From the chaos, Malachi advanced, a storm among men, combating foes with a strength born from centuries of magic and fury. But the darkness pressed, relentless. Ara fought beside him, heart soaring with every moment. Here, amidst battle, they were partners, a united front against an oppressor who had stolen so much from them. But the figure, the renegade, was still at the back, weaving through the fray silently. Ara kept an eye on him, sensing the danger of his presence, a dark herald hiding in the waves of chaos. She had to stop him. Steeling herself, she hurled through the waves of combat, fighting her way closer to him. She had caught his gaze only briefly, a glance toward the blading swords, but she felt him surging closer. "Stop!" she shouted, but her voice was lost in the clash of battle. Nothing would deter her. She wouldn't lose her chance to end this madness. Suddenly, the figure turned toward her, and she froze as a chilling recognition crossed him. "You think you can change anything?" His voice dripped with derision. "This kingdom will fall, just like the rest." "Not if we stand together!" she shouted defiantly. With a swift movement, she lunged, sword raised, but he dodged back, fluid as the shadows themselves. Pain shot through her as he nicked her arm, the resulting shock fueling the fire within her. Malachi appeared beside her, eyes blazing as he intercepted the figure, his power radiating like sunlight. "You will answer for the pain you've caused." With fury in their hearts, they fought together, the weight of their shared wounds fueling every strike. The renegade stumbled back for a heartbeat, the magic and anger of the moment crashing around them like a tempest. And in that precious moment, Ara felt the world shift. "Now, Ara!" Malachi shouted, his voice booming, a catalyst for change. Together! In sync, they lunged as one. Their movements danced with purpose, a unified force against the darkness. This was their moment, their payback against the shadows. Would they be able to sever the bonds of darkness once and for all? Or would they be consumed in flames of betrayal? Would their fierce resolve guide them to victory? Or would they fade beneath the shadows that had long haunted their kingdom? With a fierce roar, Malachi surged forward, the ground thundering beneath him as he drew upon the magic suffusing his blood. The air crackled as his power ignited the darkness encroaching on their kingdom, illuminating the chaos swirling around them. The renegade shifted, eyes flashing wickedly as he sensed the tide of battle changing. "Fools! This is only the beginning," he spat, striking out with a sudden ferocity, unwilling to let the former king and his newfound ally snuff out his dark ambitions. But Ara was ready. In the split second that followed, she lunged again, determination fueling her every move. Malachi defended her, a shield as they struck together, but the renegade twisted, weaving effortlessly between them. With the agility of a snake, he ducked under Malachi's blow and swung viciously at Ara, his blade slicing the air. Dodging just in time, Ara felt the wind of the swing brush past her cheek. "You don't understand the power of unity!" she shouted, feeling a surge of righteous anger swell. "This kingdom stands on the strength of its people, not on shadows." The renegade laughed, a bitter, cold sound. "Their loyalty wanes. They follow a king whose heart has turned to stone. They fear the truth beneath the surface." Malachi's eyes blazed with determination. The flicker of doubt hoping to rear its ugly head was extinguished by the fire of resolve. "They follow me because I fight for them. The power of fear will not hold this kingdom any longer." In that moment, the tide of battle turned. Soldiers rallied, watching their king defy the darkness. They felt it, a return of hope, a spark igniting in their chests. They fought harder, rallying behind the blazing figure of their sovereign. Ara felt Malachi's energy pulsing next to her, anchoring her, and they pressed forward, unyielding. Their movements were fluid, instinctual, a dance born not just of training, but of a mutual understanding that transcended mere words. They were no longer just king and servant. They were allies forged in the crucible of battle. Suddenly, the enemy renegade charged, hatred boiling in his veins. In a split second, he thrust toward Malachi, a furious strike that would surely end it all. But Ara moved instinctively. Emotion fueled by a bond forged in trust and raw emotion, she drove in front of Malachi, feeling every fiber of her being ignite with protective instinct. The air seemed to still momentarily, the world shrinking down to that one burst of motion. She intercepted the blow, not with a weapon, but with her body. Pain ripped through her. The blade found its mark and she gasped, feeling the hot tide of blood surging forth. "Ara!" Malachi shouted, the world around him blurring as he rushed to her side, but his focus remained sharp. "Why would you do this?" Her breath came in sharp gasps as she stared into his eyes, unwavering. "You are worth it. You are worth fighting for." Her voice faltered, pain lancing through her with every word, but the resolve within her surged. "Your light, our light, must not be extinguished." Together, he gripped her shoulders, grounding them both, and as their magic intertwined, passion igniting like wildfire, she felt invincible, even as darkness enveloped her. The renegade, momentarily stunned by the sheer courage of their bond, faltered, sensing the pull of their power. "What trickery is this?" he snarled, stepping back, fear looming behind his eyes. "It's no trick," Malachi replied, his voice like thunder. "It's love, strength grounded in shared fates. Your darkness stands no chance." With that, the energy exploded outward, a radiant burst of light emanating from their bodies, consuming the renegade in a blinding wave of purity. He fell back, howling in rage as the light overwhelmed him, suffocating the darkness that had once given him strength. Malachi turned to Ara, eyes intense with worry. "Stay with me, your power." But even as the pulsating magic surrounded them, she felt herself fading. "I'm just a servant," she murmured, shadows closing in, the spark of her spirit beginning to dim. "I won't let you fall." "No!" Malachi's voice boomed, unleashing the full force of his magic. In the blinding light, he reached for her, determined to pull her back from the brink. "You are my mate, my queen! You are worth everything! We fight together!" And as he focused every ounce of energy into their bond, she felt a surge of warmth surge through her, like the sun breaking through dark storm clouds. Their connection fortified, shooting through the pain like a wave of clarity. The renegade screeched, trapped in the power flooding toward him. "This cannot be! You're weak! You're nothing without your lies!" But Ara laughed despite the pain. "This is truth. Together, we are more than any darkness you can invoke." With a final blast of energy, Malachi surged forth, channeling their combined magic to expunge the renegade once and for all. The darkness disintegrated before them, swirling ashes in the night as the renegade's malevolent laughter faded into a haunting silence. The battle quieted. Soldiers stood still, breathless, as they witnessed their king drive the darkness from their midst. The air crackled, and Malachi turned back to Ara, catching her as she slumped against him, eyes fluttering. "Ara," he whispered, gripping her hands tightly, desperation clutching his heart. "Stay with me. Don't close your eyes. I'm here," she breathed, fighting to hold on to consciousness as the world around her blurred. "You won. The kingdom is safe." "No!" Malachi's voice broke, fury and anguish battling within him. "You need to stay. I can't lose you. The fight for our future. It begins here." Ara's voice softened, an ethereal calm enveloping them as she let the pain wash away. "The light within. It burns bright. Because of you." Tears pooled in Malachi's eyes, shimmering like diamonds as he took her face in his hands, his heart roaring with love for the woman who had changed everything. "You are my strength, Ara, my heart, and together we'll build this kingdom anew." The intense energy that had laced the battle softened, wrapping around them like a calming embrace. In that moment, as they stood amidst the ruined battlefield, they forged an unbreakable bond that would withstand the fiercest storms. Would they truly forge a new future, or was it a dream shattered by darkness? As shadows fled and the dawn approached, what lay ahead for them as partners, as a king and queen reborn? As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden rays across the remnants of the battlefield, Malachi knelt beside Ara, cradling her fragile form. The world around them began to transform, the ruins of despair giving way to a promise of renewal. But as hope flickered in his heart, the weight of her stillness pressed down like a heavy shroud. "Hold on, for me," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "Please, stay with me. You've fought so hard, and you've brought light when there was only darkness." With a trembling hand, he brushed the hair from her forehead, brushing his thumb over her cheek. The warmth of her skin felt too faint, a fading ember. He needed to act, to rally the strength pouring from their connection. There was power in love, a fierce energy that had carried them through the night. "Please," he murmured again, his heart racing as he focused intently on her. "I won't let you go. You are my queen, my mate, and together we will forge a future that no shadows can touch." A low hum began to resonate around them, the remnants of their combined magic. The air thickened with energy, channeling through their bond, binding them inexorably. Malachi closed his eyes, drawing deeply upon the well of magic inside him. He envisioned a golden light enveloping them, radiating warmth like the sun kissing away the cold morning air. With a guttural cry, he summoned the power within. "Come back to me," he commanded, clenching his fists, pouring every ounce of his being into the connection they shared. He felt it, the flicker of her spirit, stubborn and fierce, responding. The warmth began to build between them, and as it grew brighter, he dared to hope. "Ara," he whispered, filled with desperation and determination. "Your strength is my strength. Come back to me." In that moment, colors unfurled around them, brilliant golds, deep reds, and soft blues, a radiant tapestry of vitality and life. Ara's breathing quickened, and her eyelids fluttered, the shadows receding from her soul. A soft glow enveloped her form, illuminating the earthy ground as if the dawn itself had descended to breathe life back into her. "Malachi," she murmured, the sound like music to his ears. "Stay with me, Ara," he urged, his eyes locked onto hers. "We'll face the dawn together." I see it." Her voice was soft but gaining strength, the warmth of possibilities flooding back into her spirit. "The kingdom. It's alive." With a fierce pulse, the light surged forward, wrapping around them, a beacon igniting the space where shadows had once reigned. As they embraced the warmth of that light, the galloping heart of the kingdom thrummed with renewed power. The soldiers who had watched in reverence felt the tides shift, the burdens of despair lifting with every breath. They took a collective step forward into the light, rallying around their king and queen. Together, they stood against the remnants of fear, united by a fierce hope for a future brightened by the love and tenacity that emanated from its rulers. Malachi turned to the soldiers, his heart swelling with pride. "They cannot defeat us any longer. Our kingdom is reborn. We will thrive, not just survive. We will create a future where unity reigns, a song of harmony echoing in each corner of Eldara, rising above the whispers of fear." Cheers erupted, the noise a wave of sound crashing against the remnants of doubt that lingered in the air. "Long live King Malachi and Queen Ara!" they shouted, their voices entwined in a symphony of loyalty and belief. "Together!" Ara cried, standing at Malachi's side, strength blossoming in her chest. "We are the light that will lead this kingdom forward. Together, we shall forge a brighter destiny." The dawn broke brighter than ever, a new age dawning with their vow echoing across the land. As the first sunrays kissed the stones of Eldara, it ignited a rebirth in their hearts. The burdens of yesterday began to fade, and the promise of tomorrow wrapped around them like a cloak of hope. Hand in hand, Malachi and Ara stepped forward, leaving behind the shadows that once threatened to destroy them. With every step, they etched a new narrative into the world, a saga of love that bathed every corner of their kingdom in brilliance. The journey wouldn't be without challenges, but they knew they would face them united, no longer king and servant, but true equals. partners bound by magic and love. Together, they would write the next chapters of their tale, a story whispered through the winds of time. As they looked toward the future, the first light of a new day shining brightly, one thing was certain: this wasn't the end, but rather a glorious beginning. If you enjoyed the story of Malachi and Ara, the powerful king and his fearless queen, subscribe for more epic Lycan King romances. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. And remember, together is where true strength lies. Thank you for listening.